Hi again, everyone. For me, it's been a 3-week hiatus, but for you, it might have just been a couple seconds. But I'm looking forward to getting back to continuing on our work in Shelmerdine. I've discovered in the last 3 weeks that that's actually how Cynthia's last name is pronounced. And we're going to start chapter 10 and look more at third declension nouns. And these are going to have special stems ending in new ta and kappa ta. So some similarities, some old things, but it's been 3 weeks for me. As I said, let's do some kind of quick review of what is a third declension noun and what kind of endings does it have. So we had our first declension nouns, which tended to be feminine, but would end either in eta or maybe in alpha. And then we kind of had a pattern for handling how this would go as would go down. So nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, vocative in the singular. We'll make the singular over here, and then plural over here. So we had these etas, which happened after the great vowel shift. These alphas would come after either epsilon, iota, or rho. So this is old hat. We've done this before, but in Greek, as in almost everything, it's worth spending some time reviewing. So we have etas over here, alphas over here, but then these kind of typical first declension endings that we've now become used to. So this was good. This was the second declension. I'm going to forget about the plural right now. We're just working on the third declension, not the first. But let's also do a quick review of the second declension, which tended to be masculine and would end in a form like this, but we did have exceptions where, like Nasos, the word for island, where we had this kind of masculine second declension ending, but it really is a feminine noun. Hey, Nasos, the island. So, but we had os, u in the genitive, so again, ng dav, going down, o, on, and then simply a short epsilon for the vocative. This was our kind of masculine or feminine form, mostly masculine. We also had the neuter form, which we had a few examples, but would end in on, oo, o, on, and on. So this was first declension. This was second. That's all review. You can go back into the video archive and review that. But now we can talk a little bit more about third declension. We had special endings for that. So here I am going to give you both the singular and the plural. So these will be our third declension nouns, and these are our endings. So in the singular, again we'll do ng dav down the line. We had either nothing or ending in a sigma, and this is with our masculine and feminine endings. Then we would have omicron sigma in the genitive singular, short just iota in the dative, and then either an alpha or sometimes a nu in the accusative, and in the vocative we have either nothing again or just a repeat of that sigma. So this was the masculine feminine. Let's talk about the neuter. This was something we had a couple examples of. But the typical example we were seeing was soma, which had just nothing. There was no sigma at the end. But then it's very similar to the masculine feminine endings. Here we had, again, these are short iotas. And then, as always, our nominative is equal to the accusative is equal to the vocative in our neuter. So those would be our same endings. So if we had soma, somatos, somati, soma, soma. All right, so that was our singular. Let's go now to our plural endings, which were, again, different between masculine and feminine on this side and neuter on this side. So on the masculine and feminine endings, we had s, on, seen, or just see, that's a new movable. Let me again make that all clear. And then our accusative plural was a short alpha sigma, which is different from the long alpha sigma of the first declension. And then our vocative, as always, in the plural equal to our nominative. And then in the neuter, we had a short alpha, own, and then the same see or sin. And then again, because this is neuter, the nominative, vocative, and accusative are all going to be the same. They're all going to be the short alpha. So these are our endings for everything. Now, what we had come across with already in some cases, let me make this eraser a little bigger, was that those endings wouldn't always play nicely with the stems that we were given. Let's start with the first one that we looked at, which was ha ke rux, meaning the herald. little extra curly Q there, but that's never too bad of a thing. And then we knew that if we went to the genitive singular, to keirukos, then we could actually find our stem. Let me get a different color to mark it. And our stem was going to be this keiruk. If we remember back to our masculine or feminine endings as we had either nothing or a sigma for the nominative, and then we had this os for the genitive. That's what we have there. If we were to keep on going, I'll change color here. To keiruki. It's a short iota. Accent can stay there. Now we're just working with the stem and adding these endings that play nicely. Ton, keiruka. And these vowels aren't doing anything to the stem. Well, what happened here? Well, let's finish this up with the vocative. Keiruks. What happened here? Why did we get this xi? Well, this is because originally we were starting off with ha, keiruk, plus sigma. Keiruks like this, but you probably haven't seen this often in reading your Greek, and that's because Greek had a special character for this. They had this xi. So we kind of have a Greek math situation going on where kappa plus sigma is equal to xi. So that's why we had the change here. Well, this is the same principle that we're going to see played out on these new stems ending in nu ta and kappa ta. Let's start with the genitive singular because that's going to be our key. Well, actually, first, before I do anything, let me write again our masculine, feminine kind of endings as a cheat sheet up here. So we had either nothing or sigma. Then we had omicron sigma, short iota, alpha, or maybe nu, depending on the case, mostly alpha, and then often nothing, and then sometimes sigma for the vocative. And then when we got into the plural, we had s, own, c or sin, short alpha, sigma, os, and then s again for the vocative. So this is our cheat sheet. Oops, sorry. We'll keep that over here on the right. Now let's take what's going to be our dictionary entry that gets us our stem, and we're going to be working with the word for giant. As I record this, the San Francisco Giants have just they beat St. Louis to now be in the finals with Detroit. I'm a Detroit native. I'm really pulling for the Tigers here, but that's neither here nor there. But let's talk about the word for giant. Ha, gigas in the nominative, and that's a long alpha, and we'll get to y in just a second. But then gigantos is the genitive singular. So that's what we're working with here. We have gigantos, and that's a short alpha here. So part of what we're going to be doing here is explaining how this goes from short to long. But that's our dictionary entry. Let's start off with our genitive singular. So let me put a little code here. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, vocative. See if we can squeeze the plural in here at the bottom with another ng dav. Just barely make it. All right, so going back to what we have here, well, what's our stem? So we can see taking off the omicron sigma of the third declension is going to get us our stem, and that stem is gigan. So we can start kind of populating our list here and saying, well, here we have a gigan. We'll definitely have a gigan here, and a gigan here, and a gigan here. These aren't real words. This is just the kind of root. This is the raw material. I'm kind of looking ahead, but we will have to make some changes. So let's just go ahead and add these endings, and we'll see, oh, well, I made a lie. I forgot about this ta that we have to keep going on through here. So we really have gigant all the way. So we have gigants up there. That looks a bit like giants, doesn't it, with an extra G. These words are related. There's no, surprise that we have this word. Also not surprising that for Spanish speakers in the Bay Area, they're not pulling for the giants, they're pulling for los gigantes, which will be identical to the nominative plural here, gigantes. Things don't really change that much, especially when we're talking about giants. Mythical beasts haven't changed much over the years. So we have gigants here. Let me star this because that's not right. Then we'll have giganti, short iota there, allows that iota, the accent on the antepenal to stay. Then we have a short giganta here, and then gigants again. So, well, what's the problem with this? NTS. Well, whenever we're combining letters in Greek, we really could think of it as this math equation. Again, this is more of this Greek math I keep talking about. Nobody else talks about it, but I'm going to call it Greek math, and I find it useful. So we have nu plus ta plus sigma. This is the kind of different phonemes, the little bits of language, the pronunciations that we're going to combine this n nasal with the dental, a t, with this as a sibilant, an s. So nts becomes nts. Well, what have we learned in Greek so far? What has been one of our Greek math examples? Well, from chapter 9, we know dental plus sigma, like ta plus sigma. In these cases, the sigma wins. So if we were going to kind of take this math one step at a time, we'd want to add the sigma plus the ta, and then we'd get this. What would happen? The sigma would win. I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't be writing them as a final sigma and a mid-word or beginning word sigma. Here, let's keep them all this way. So n plus t, nu plus ta plus sigma will equal nu plus sigma. And this is another thing that happens in Greek, especially at the end of the words. Nu plus sigma is going to equal just sigma. That's the math that's going on there. So what's happened ultimately is we've had this kind of cascading effect where we have head-to-head matches, ta versus sigma, and the sigma wins. And now we have sigma versus nu, and nu wins. We could think of this as sort of brackets leading to the final victor, sigma. So that's what we're going to have up here. And that explains the dictionary entry that was over here a couple minutes ago, gigas. So that's why we have that, and that makes sense. And then when we get into the dative plural, let's keep on populating. So we have giganton. Oop, that sigma got away from me. Giganton, that's a long omega, so the accent has to move here. Dative, well, we're going to have gigant si, or sin. And same exact process that got us gigas up here is going to get us gigasi down here. Gigasi or gigasin. And then in the accusative plural, gigantas. And then vocative will be same as the nominative, gigantes. So sorry that's crunched, but at least it's the same word as up here. Good. So now we've solved the problem of what happened to the nu ta here. Well, the sigma beat the ta, and then the sigma also beat the nu, so we're down to just the sigma. But why has this gone from short, which will be short all the way through these, to a long here in gigas? Well, in Greek, as in Latin and other languages where length of vowel is determined by how long you're actually pronouncing it. It's kind of a musical sense. If we have a short vowel, like a short alpha, before a combination like nu and ta, this nasal and this consonant, this dental, they're going to want to make this alpha pronounced long. It's short by nature, but it becomes a kind of long pronunciation when followed by these two consonants. So what happens when we have this a plus n plus t plus s sounds, when we lose these, we need to somehow keep that length of vowel that originally was here when it was followed by nt. So we've lost the nt, but Greeks wanted to maintain that sense that, well, yes, the nt are gone, but we still want to note that they were long. So we actually end up changing the vowel length of the alpha. So here we've lost these consonants, so now we just have a alpha sigma at the end, but that alpha has gone long. If we had something like entos, or ents, let's see, say e plus n plus t plus s, same rules would apply, and then to lengthen this, we can't just do that over an epsilon. Epsilons are always short. Greeks would prefer to make this an epsilon iota diphthong, which is really equal to epsilon plus epsilon. So we would have something like ace at the end. We're at ENTS, but we don't have that, we have ANTS here. That's why we have a long alpha in gigas and a short alpha everywhere else, except we'll also have a long alpha there for the exact same reason. This might seem like hair splitting. Why are we spending all this time on length, vowel length? It's written the same. Greeks didn't even have these diacritical marks to say long and short. Well, that's all true, and in a way this is hair splitting. But it's useful because long vowels are pronounced differently. Once you get to poetry, you need to know if this is going to be long or short. Different things will happen in different circumstances. The other thing is just to explain, well, what happened to those NT and what happens when we lose consonants in Greek? They don't just disappear. There's an artifact of them, and that artifact for us on gigas is this long alpha. Well, good. So we have half of this done. 15 minutes, I better get moving. Let's do one of these that ends in kappa ta, and our example for this is going to be nooks, which is hey nooks, feminine, the night, and then the genitive singular is going to be nuktos. So again, from the genitive singular, we can look over here and say, ah, well, our stem in this case must be nukt. N-U-K-T. Well, great. So let's go through and kind of do a population of all this. So we have nukt, nukt. That's a terrible new, but you get the idea. Nukt, nukt. I'm going to stop pronouncing that because that just, it's hard to say. All these nooks, one after another. All right, one more. Good. So we can do this. Of course, we're going to be needing to make changes, but it's useful to say, okay, we have the stem. Let's build on it now. So I'm going to use a different color and add these stem endings. So we have a sigma, omicron, sigma, iota, alpha, short iota, alpha, and then again sigma, then epsilon sigma, omega nu, sigma iota nu, alpha sigma, short alpha, and then epsilon sigma. So you can see that any of these that are beginning with vowels, nothing's really going on. This is going to work just great, so we can keep these accents persistent. It's really only here where we're going to have some Greek math to deal with, where we have a ta plus a sigma. And as we remember, dentals plus sigma, sigma wins. So let's go in and do some careful erasing. And try to get that blue back. And say, well, now we're going to have a sigma here, nooks, and that's great, but remember what happens here? We had this with k-rooks. So we basically lost the t in this situation from that sigma taking over, but now we have the exact same situation we had in chapter 9 with this noun k-rooks. This, Greeks had a symbol for this. It was xi, kappa plus sigma equals xi. So nothing's disappearing, we're just writing it in a different way. So let me do that. Xi, nukes. And then we have nuktos, nukti, nukta, and then again in the vocative nukes. Accent is persistent, it's a noun, it'll stay on that upsilon as wherever it can. So now again we'd have nuksi, nuksin down here, and we just need to change that kappa, sigma, into the Greek character that's kind of ready-made for that, nuksi, or nuksin. So kappa sigma turns into xi. That's all we have going on here. So let's take a quick zoom out. This was easy. This was much easier doing night because we didn't have to worry about any compensatory lengthening. And that's the term for this. Linguists and philologists love giving a term to everything. But what does compensatory lengthening mean? Well, it's in compensation. That's the compensatory aspect. And then we lengthen that vowel. And what are we compensating for? For the fact that we've lost this new ta. It's no longer written, it's no longer pronounced. But that vestige, that remainder of it, is pronounced in just this compensatory lengthening, making this alpha long. Good. Well, this was strange. This was a little bit more straightforward. But now we're working through the alphabet, looking at more third declension nouns with different endings. We're making good progress. It's 19 minutes now. We'll wrap this up and move on to more exciting things in the next unit. See you then.